Martin looking. Here's Clark. She fires and goes!
After decades of being nothing but a laughingstock, the WNBA is finally receiving some praise thanks to a baller named Caitlin Clark. Right now, Caitlin is single-handedly carrying the franchise on her back, much like how Michael Jordan made the NBA a household sport. You would think a feat like that would be welcomed by all in the WNBA, but instead, all Caitlin Clark has known is pain, as she is being singled out by bullies who want to see her fail. This is the curse of being the WNBA's first true prodigy, and the story gets worse the more you look into it. Caitlin's dilemma. You would think that as one of the most prolific players to get drafted into the WNBA, Caitlin would be shown the proper treatment you would expect of a prodigy, but the reverse has been the case. From destructive behavior from opponents to outright fouls, Caitlin hasn't given space to shine. Knowing how badly the WNBA is seen in the eyes of fans, it feels counterintuitive to come around to give a player like Caitlin Clark all the support she needs, but that's not what has been happening with the star. The league has a reputation for reacting negatively to certain players who don't quite fit in with the program. Take for instance former WNBA player Candice Wiggins. She had a career that started around the early 2000s, and in an interview with ESPN, the former pro baller revealed that her time in the WNBA isn't all butterflies and rainbows. In the controversial interview, the former number 3 draft revealed that she became a target to other players who felt threatened by her popularity and sexual orientation. She alleges that a large population of players in the WNBA were gay, and being vocal about her sexuality put a target on her back. When you add the fact that Candice Wiggins was quite popular, you have a recipe for disaster, and the former pro revealed how toxic it could get at times. Seeing how things are beginning to play out the same way they did for Candice, it's easy to see how Caitlin has attracted a lot of bad vibes due to how popular she has become. Caitlin has had on-court clashes with Angel Reese and Kelsey Plume, but you could say those happen due to the competitive nature of the sport. We know how heated things can get whenever the players are locked in on the game, and everyone else becomes an obstacle in their path. That being said, Caitlin has had to endure some unprofessional behavior from opponents who seem super hostile towards her. Despite playing just a few games, anyone can see that the tackles on Caitlin seem to graduate from regular challenges to full-on physical assault. It's almost like they weren't ready for a player of her stature in the league, but Caitlin didn't come out of nowhere. To really understand her grind, all you need is a trip down memory lane, and it's as goated as you'd imagine. Rise of a prodigy. Before making a name for herself in the WNBA, Caitlin Clark was an undisputed baller, making her way through the NCAA. While at Iowa Hawkeyes, she quickly established herself as the real deal, as she earned the respect of players and coaches who watched her work her magic on the court. Something about her just reminds you of that idea of the complete point guard we all imagine in our heads. She could deliver three-pointers on the court like it was a light walk in the park, and once the media latched on, we began to hear comparisons to Curry and even Pistol Pete Maravich. You don't need to be a basketball fanatic to know that Caitlin could ball. Just watching her flow across the court was convincing enough to make die-hard haters admit that she could handle herself on the court. You don't get to be the first female player in history to lead Division I in points and assists in a single season by being average. By the time she was done with college, Caitlin had racked up enough points to become the NCAA Division I all-time leading scorer, a feat she achieved in her short time at Iowa, so it didn't come as a shock when they announced they would retire her jersey. You might wonder why someone with such a career would have a hard time in the pro league, but to really understand Caitlin's dilemma, we have to look at the underlying problem the WNBA had been facing. The WNBA's problem. Without mincing words, most basketball fans felt that the WNBA sucked. It didn't matter what type of numbers they put up, hardcore NBA fans just couldn't bring themselves to watch their games. While some people don't have legitimate reasons for gating the WNBA, there are several videos online that capture how bad it gets in the WNBA. From watching players fail to catch perfectly good passes or miss easy shots, you could easily say a group of teenagers could take on a team full of pros, and you wouldn't be wrong. The thing with having a reputation like that was it becomes hard to attract a lot of media attention. Sure, some players in the WNBA had news outlets over them, but it was nowhere near the level we have seen with their counterparts in the NBA. With the minimal attention given to the league, you could go months and years without hearing about WNBA drafts or trades. People didn't really pay that much attention to what happened in the league, but that all changed when Caitlin was about to make her big entry into the league. Before turning pro, media houses like ESPN and CBS Sports reported that she would become the first overall pick at the 2024 WNBA WNBA draft. Sure enough, Caitlin was drafted by Indiana Fever as the first overall pick, and with such a heroic milestone, everyone expected her to burst into the WNBA with flying colors. But all she met was a whirlwind of problems. You would think that someone who could relate to Caitlin would try to support her through the rough patch, but that hasn't been the case with Diana Taurasi, who doesn't seem to like Caitlin. As one of the most decorated players in the league, Diana has a lot of sway in the WNBA, but she comes off as very sketchy when it comes to Caitlin Clark. Diana's stance on Caitlin becomes super clear when she talks about her exclusion from the Team USA's Olympic team. Dana Taurasi was of the opinion that Caitlin was too young to play for Team USA, and when she was reminded that she also got a shot to play with the national team around that age, Diana let out a wide grin. She could have said several other things to try to justify why Caitlin didn't make the team, but she wasn't even going to hide how she felt for the young star. In our eyes, that kind of reaction towards a fresh star leans towards being jealous, but we would leave that to you guys to decide why Dana Taurasi isn't a fan of Caitlin Clark. While we may not be sure of Diana's motives, the one thing we are 100% sure about is the effect pulling down Caitlin could have on the WNBA, and believe me, it's not good. The WNBA's future. We are currently witnessing an unprecedented period in the WNBA's history thanks to stars like Caitlin Clark, so we are shocked that the WNBA hasn't welcomed her with open arms. Attendance figures have been soaring since her arrival with the Indiana Fever, seeing figures that eclipse the past 2 seasons in just the first 7 home games in 2024. Such a remarkable feat shows the kind of star power a player like Caitlin Clark commands, so it makes sense for the WNBA to lean into it. It's no secret that the WNBA doesn't bring in as much money as you would expect from a basketball franchise. Despite being at the forefront of female basketball in America, the WNBA only survived due to handouts from the NBA. Caitlin might as well be the Michael Jordan figure they need to revolutionize the WNBA, but they are willing to throw it away with the hostile treatment shown to Caitlin. Despite the challenges she has faced in the WNBA, Caitlin Clark always seems to be above it. She lets her game do her talking, only breaking character when an opponent steps too far. If she continues on this course, she has the potential to make fans see the WNBA in a different light. We are talking about more fans coming to see WNBA games and increased revenue for the team. The type of skill and work ethic displayed by Caitlin Clark makes it easy to claim that she will be the GOAT of women's basketball in the future, and we understand if that is too scary for some people to consider. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you check out our other basketball videos because they cover some juicy details you might not find anywhere else. Until next time, keep the spirit of the game alive.